If you have been blaming yourself for killing roses, I want you to stop right now. Put that guilt down. You have been growing the wrong varieties, watering them the wrong way, feeding them on the wrong schedule, and deadheading them in exactly the spot that guarantees they shut down for the season. I have been growing roses for over 20 years. I killed my share of them in the early days too, before I understood what these plants are actually asking for. And here is what I can tell you. Once you understand the 7 principles I am going to share with you today, the whole thing changes. We are talking about roses that push blooms in June and do not stop until the first hard frost shuts them down in November. That is not an exaggeration. That is just what happens when you stop fighting the plant and start working with its biology. Stay with me until secret number 3, because what I am about to tell you about watering is the single most common silent bloom killer I see. And I am willing to bet it is why your roses looked great in spring and disappointed you all summer long. Before we get into it, drop your US state or your USDA hardiness zone in the comments right now. I read every comment, and where you are gardening determines everything. Your variety selection, your watering schedule, when you stop fertilizing, and how much winter protection you need. Just your state, just your zone. If you are new here, subscribe before anything else. This channel comes out every single week with practical information built for gardeners who want real results. Subscribe and let us get into these 7 secrets. Secret number 1, choose the right variety. If you get this wrong, none of the other 6 secrets matter. The foundation of a continuously blooming rose garden starts with genetic selection, and I am going to be straight with you. Most of the roses being sold at big box garden centers right now are not genetically built to bloom all season long. They are built to look spectacular in a plastic pot in May. Whether they perform for you in July and September is simply not a priority for the people selling them. There are 2 fundamental categories of roses: once bloomers and repeat bloomers. Old garden roses and many traditional varieties are once blooming, one magnificent flush in late spring, and then you have a green shrub for the rest of the year. Nobody at the garden center is going to tell you that, but it is the truth. If you want blooms from June through your first hard frost, you need repeat bloomers. And within that category, 3 classes stand above everything else. First, floribundas, developed specifically to produce clusters of flowers in continuous waves. Iceberg, arguably the most reliable white rose ever developed, hardy in zones 4 through 9. Julia Child, a warm golden yellow that performs beautifully in zones 5 through 9. These are workhorses. Second, David Austin, English shrub roses. The newer varieties have been significantly improved. Olivia Rose Austin, a soft pink in zones 5 through 9, blooms reliably from late spring through fall. The fragrance is extraordinary, and the old-fashioned full quartered bloom shape makes people stop walking past your yard. Third, and this is the most important recommendation I can make for American gardeners who want maximum bloom with minimum effort, the Knockout Rose series, hybridized specifically for the American residential landscape. Self-cleaning, meaning they do not even require deadheading to continue blooming. Exceptional resistance to black spot. They bloom on a 6-week cycle from June through your first hard freeze. The original knockout in deep cherry red, the double knockout with a fuller bloom shape, and rainbow knockout in coral and gold, all zones 4 through 9. Get the genetics right and you have already won half the battle. Secret number 2, location and soil. Here is where people make an expensive permanent mistake. They plant their rose in a spot that is convenient for them and then wonder why the blooms never return. after the first spring flush. Roses need fuel to produce flowers continuously. That fuel comes from sunlight, direct sunlight, not partial shade, not dappled light. The minimum for continuous bloom production is 6 hours of direct sun per day, and that is the absolute floor. 8 hours is what you are really aiming for. In less than 6 hours, the plant simply does not have enough solar energy to fuel a second flush. It is not sick. It is not deficient. It is out of fuel. Air circulation is equally critical, and almost nobody talks about it. Roses planted too close together, up against a wall or wedged between shrubs, stay wet after morning dew and rain. Wet foliage is the perfect incubator for black spot and powdery mildew. Once a rose gets black spot and starts dropping leaves, your bloom cycle is compromised for the rest of the season. Give shrub roses a minimum 3 feet of clearance on all sides. For soil, roses need well-draining ground, not sandy, not clay. Before you plant, dig your hole twice as wide as the root ball and amend generously with mature compost. In clay soil, add coarse perlite or expanded shale to open drainage. Plant your graft union, that knobby, swollen joint where canes meet the root system, 1 to 2 inches below soil level in zone 6 and colder, at or just above soil level in zone 7 and warmer. This one detail determines how well the rose survives winter and how aggressively it returns the following spring. Secret number 3, water deeply at the base. This is the single most common silent bloom killer in rose gardens across America. And here is the first rule: never water the foliage. Never. No overhead sprinklers, no hose sprayed over the top of the plant. Every time you wet rose foliage, you create the exact conditions black spot and powdery mildew need to establish. Those diseases are sitting in your soil as dormant spores waiting for wet leaves. Once they get on the plant, the rose shifts energy away from flower production and into immune response. Your bloom cycle breaks for weeks, sometimes the rest of the season. Water at the base. A soaker hose laid around the drip line is ideal. Deep, infrequent watering, once to twice per week, is dramatically more effective than light daily watering. Deep watering pushes moisture down into the soil and trains the roots to follow it downward. Deep roots are what sustain a rose through brutal July and August heat. Shallow roots created by frequent light watering leave the plant entirely dependent on surface moisture. And when the soil surface dries out in a heat wave, the plant immediately stresses and shuts down. Here is the counterintuitive part I mentioned in the beginning. Allowing the top inch of soil to dry slightly between waterings is not neglect. It is a technique. When a rose experiences that brief, controlled surface dryness, it sends a physiological signal that triggers bud initiation. The plant interprets a drying surface as a cue to reproduce. Then when you water deeply, those buds swell rapidly and the next flush is on its way. This is called bud forcing among serious rose growers. It is why the gardeners who follow this approach always seem to have roses in bloom while their neighbors do not. Before we go further, how many springs have you bought replacement roses only to be disappointed by August? Drop your answer in the comments. Your questions and frustrations shape the content on this channel every single week. If you are not subscribed yet, please do that right now. Every week I put out practical information built specifically for gardeners who are done replacing things that should have lasted. Hit subscribe and let us keep going. Secret number 4, feed the soil, not just the plant. Roses are heavy feeders. A rose pushing a fresh flush of blooms every 5 to 6 weeks is burning through phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, and trace minerals at a rate most other flowering shrubs never approach. If you are not replenishing those nutrients consistently, the flush intervals grow longer and longer until the plant essentially gives up blooming for the year. 3 amendments I use every season. First, bone meal worked into the top few inches of soil around each plant in early spring as soon as you see the first green growth on the canes. 2 to 3 cups per established rows. Bone meal is a slow-release phosphorus source, the macronutrient most directly responsible for flower bud formation. It releases gradually over weeks and months, which is exactly what a continuous bloomer needs. Second, alfalfa. This is so underused by home rose growers that it qualifies as a trade secret. Alfalfa contains a naturally occurring growth stimulant that specifically triggers new canes to push from the base of the plant. More basal breaks means more flowering canes. More flowering canes means more blooms. 1 cup of alfalfa pellets sprinkled around each rose in spring and again in midsummer. A 50-pound bag of alfalfa rabbit pellets from the farm supply store costs almost nothing. Third, Epsom salts. 1 tablespoon dissolved in a gallon of water applied as a soil drench twice during the growing season. Provides magnesium, which keeps foliage dark and photosynthetically productive. 1 critical timing rule. Stop all fertilizing by mid-August in Zone 6 and colder, early September in Zone 7 and warmer. Late fertilizing pushes tender new growth right before winter. That new growth has not hardened off. When frost hits it, it dies, and that dieback can progress further down into the cane. Secret number 5, deadhead with the 5-leaflet cut. The difference between doing this correctly and doing it incorrectly is the difference between your next flush, arriving in 4 to 6 weeks, versus getting weak growth that never produces a single bud. Deadheading removes spent blooms because a rose's evolutionary purpose is to produce seed. The moment a flower finishes and begins forming a hip, the plant shifts energy toward developing that seed. It is done with that cane. You have to remove the spent flower before the hip develops, and you have to do it precisely. Most gardeners snip just below the spent flower head. This is wrong. It leaves the plant without a strong bud to push from and produces a weak blind stem with foliage but no flower bud. Here is what you actually do. Follow the stem down from the spent bloom, past the first set of leaves. These will have 3 leaflets. Keep going down to the next set. These will have 5 leaflets. Cut the stem at a 45-degree angle, 1/4 inch above that 5-leaflet leaf junction, above a leaf that faces outward away from the center of the plant. That junction contains a mature bud with stored energy and programming to produce a flowering shoot. By cutting there, you activate that bud directly. In 4 to 6 weeks in good sun and nutritious soil, you will have a full, fresh flush from that exact point. Deadhead every spent bloom on the plant, every single one. Secret number 6, the summer haircut. By late July or early August, your roses are going to look tired, smaller blooms, leggy stretched stems, sparse yellowing foliage toward the base. Most gardeners see this and assume the plants are failing. They stop paying attention. This is the exact wrong response. What is happening is that the plant has been pushing hard all season and needs a reset. In late July or early August, remove approximately 1/3 of the plant's total height. Not half, not 2/3, 1/3. Along with that height reduction, remove all the thin, spindly, twiggy canes smaller than a pencil in diameter and any canes crossing in the interior of the plant. This triggers a compensatory stress response at the plant's hormonal level. It perceives a loss of photosynthetic capacity and mobilizes its stored carbohydrate reserves into aggressive new growth. Within 2 to 3 weeks, fresh, vigorous canes push from the base and from the cut points. 6 to 8 weeks later, right in the September to October window for most of the country, you get a spectacular autumn flush. Cooler temperatures bring out deeper colors and stronger fragrance than anything you saw all summer. Alongside the summer haircut, keep 3 inches of organic mulch over the entire root zone, pulled back slightly from the crown. Pick up fallen or spotted leaves from the soil surface regularly and dispose of them in the trash, not the compost pile. Diseased rose foliage sitting on bare soil is a reservoir of fungal spores. Remove it consistently, and your disease pressure through the second half of the season drops significantly. Secret number 7, prepare for winter the right way. Most gardeners are protecting their roses against the wrong thing. They worry about cold temperatures. An established rose in its hardiness zone can generally handle sustained cold. What actually kills roses, specifically what kills the crown where roots meet canes, is repeated freeze and thaw cycles. Each time temperatures drop below freezing and then rise back above it, which happens repeatedly through a typical winter in zones 4, 5, and 6, water inside the crown tissue freezes and expands, then thaws and contracts. Repeated enough times, this ruptures the cells, the crown dies, and the entire plant is at risk. The solution is to insulate the crown against temperature fluctuation, not against cold, against swings. After a few hard frosts in late fall have caused the plant to drop its leaves and begin hardening, mound 8 to 10 inches of fresh soil or dry compost directly over the crown. Soil or compost specifically, not mulch, which stays too loose to insulate effectively. This mound buffers the crown so it stays cold but stable rather than cycling back and forth across the freezing point. In zones 4 and colder, also mound the lower 2/3 of the canes with additional compost or clean straw. In spring, remove the mound gradually over 5 to 7 days as temperatures consistently stay above freezing at night. Do not pull it all at once. The tender new growth initiating under that mound is frost sensitive. Expose it gradually and let it harden before full exposure. 7 secrets, all of them completely within your control. Choose repeat blooming genetics. Give your roses 8 hours of sun and 3 feet of air clearance. Water deeply at the base and never overhead. Build living soil with bone meal, alfalfa, and Epsom salts, and stop feeding in August. Deadhead above the 5-leaflet leaf every time. Give the summer haircut in late July and keep the interior open and the ground clean. Protect the crown in winter against temperature swings, not just cold. Do these things consistently and you will have roses blooming from June through the first hard frost, year after year, not just the first spring. Drop your zone and tell me which of these 7 secrets you are implementing first. Subscribe if you have not already. Next week I will be back with more. Happy gardening.